stated on screen if you take issue mentally or physically with the topics. I recommend preparing yourself for not watching the content. Before the video starts, I want to make my intentions very clear. This is a remake of my last video on this discussion in hopes to make my points a lot clearer and to actually give some more insight. I don't promote harassment of anyone, especially considering that not everyone does the research and language barriers can make getting the right information about this topic quite difficult. I recommend watching the video all the way through before making any discussions or leaving comments, as I would recommend and prefer that you remain respectful and disengage with heated arguments. Minor side note, I do have issues with speaking and just my voice in general, which is caused by a neurological disorder. I completely understand if that becomes irritatable in any way.
To it forming a cult fan base that enjoys shipping adults with children to this very day.
I want to talk about this discourse in a civil manner, since people are upset about this, of course, for considerably fair reasons. Let's supply needed context. Now, Invader Zim, a show about an alien invader of the Urkin species sent on an important mission to conquer Earth for his race's next universal conquest, landing on Earth and catching the eye of a young paranormal investigator, Div, which is essentially where the fandomization started. Now in fandom culture, it's very typical that romantic relationships between characters are fantasized about. For reasons of many kind, this is called shipping, and ZADR, an abbreviation of semantic romance, is just one of the many. A large majority of the time when looking at ship discourse, it comes down to harassment, arguments, slandering, mostly about preference, general canonization, toxicity. This is a form of canonization, large age gaps, which is extremely notable when it comes to Urkins and children characters within the show. This generally makes the discourse a lot more taboo and leaves a lot of space for misrepresentation and romanticization of abuse. As for the canon, people making claims without sources, misinformation spreading like fire, and of course with all things, a lot of ignorance. Though the important part is what's actually true. Despite what shippers want to hear and think, there is in fact a large age gap between these two characters. Here's some proof from within the canon and creator statements.
Flashback now to a deep within Urk, military training area. Zim is a little older now. He sits amongst hundreds of rows of young Urkins wearing hollow visors and downloading new data. They're all performing military simulations. Zim removes his visor and looks around, irritated.
Boring! 10 years we're still in this education plug. When do we get to see the planet's surface?
He turns to the young Urkins next to him, who happen to be cute younger versions of red and purple.
It was 50 years ago, on the Urkin military training planet Devastus. I'd been waiting years to take my final test to become one of the Urkin elite soldiers, and should they need a rise, to be one of the invaders.
I've been flying ships since before you were born, sad little Earth monkey!
Random question. From an Urkin perspective, is Zim supposed to be an adult or a child?
Zim was always an adult. He's you remember Dennis the Menace?
Yeah.
It was like a little boy, and his nemesis was this old man. You know, I'm no Dennis the Menace fan, but I always thought that was funny. It was yeah, we never really like explicitly stated it in the show. Never felt like we had to, but yeah, Zim is an alien who lived an entire life. Like he's like a grown man who's come down and he fights children. Like that's how dumb he is. You know? That's how just stupid he is. He gets embroiled with this little child's, this child rivalry. But yeah, that's them.
With that out of the way, we will now be looking into the most notable arguments I have heard over the years about this topic. Of discourse, mostly debunking.
Zip did. Put on the puppet, Angel.
It is quite common for people in large communities to make jokes about the fan culture in their spaces, especially when it comes to the voice actors. I would say this is likely a result of the times and dark humor being fairly common, especially in a generally dark show like Invader Zim.
Another thing, what is it like knowing that there are hundreds of fangirls out there that would most definitely, if they could, tie you to their bed and rape you through?
Also, we don't entirely know their intentions. So if anything, in all honesty, I feel like this is just a jab at Jonin for obvious reasons. Similarly to the voice actor situation, new point coming across, just because a certain individual works on a show doesn't mean they affect the canon. After all, ideas are left to the creator and the person that manages what can and can't be put on air. Just because a person on a team is in support of a certain idea or subject does not mean it reflects on the creator or the show, especially considering people don't exactly ask for that type of information.
A lot of people think that animation is this combination of a lot of people's efforts, you know, from storyboard artists to colorists to the people that market the show to the people that do the voices. It's really not true in this case. This is entirely Jonin's baby. This is Jonin's inspiration.
About these pages specifically, they're from the show Bible, and a lot about the Bible of Invader Zim contains concept art, so they're likely outdated. One thing that a majority of ZADR shippers acknowledge, which in no means is isolated to just this fandom, is sexualization of the child characters, which shouldn't be tolerated for obvious reasons, especially considering Invader Zim is a kids show and is targeted towards children. Or why it is treated as a serious thing is because it enables individuals, it has influence, and of course victims may stumble upon it. Influence is not an uncommon thing when it comes to media, which is something I have touched upon in my past videos. There are multiple examples of this that I have stated previously. The impact of fiction on reality is very much just a human experience, and in discussions like these is something that deserves to be acknowledged. Though with everything else, ZADR definitely does have its own example. Blog The Great Rouge, stating this on a long-winded statement posted on February 15th of 2022. This clip is covered by Streamline Workshop.
In Invader Zim, the voice actors of both Zim and Dib find the ship of their characters funny, and even joke around it, and tease fans about it in cons. A ship between a bazillion-year-old alien and an 11-year-old kid. I'm not into that ship, in fact I hate it, but I never ruined people's lives or called them gross things over it.
I won't go fully in depth, but the user in question was known for misrepresentation of mental health, platonic relationships such as familial ones, and would include pedophilia in their work. One thing I have noticed from people with bad media literacy is the massive impact that fiction does in fact have on reality and real people in the real world. Whether it's personal desires or someone's own experience coming into play, it's something that should be blatantly obvious. A screen cannot protect you, people can become desensitized by certain subjects and be enabled by them.
You did the comic for Nickelodeon, and that exposed the cartoon, excuse me, for Nickelodeon, exposed to like a big younger audience. I mean, really. And now because of that, is that getting popularity with your older work amongst the youth?
Oh yeah, immediately. People basically would run searches on my name because I just for some reason my identity was very much identified with the show,
right? Which
was weird, and they basically kind of hooked into my older work, which wasn't necessarily aimed at kids.
Does that concern you at all? Or could you care less? It's
It's odd. I don't. At first, I wasn't terribly comfortable with it. Now it's just sort of like accept it because nothing's really come of it. There's not kids going around, slaughtering their families in my name. Which I guess that's.
I think that's a plus.
It's flattery in a way,
yes.
but it's not really. It wasn't my goal. It wasn't my intent.
of representation or reality. They are never meant to be normalized anything in them. None of my drawings are supposed to send a message or teach a moral. It's just shitpost drawings. They all just center around shippings and NSFW smut. It doesn't matter if you're not intending to normalize that sort of behavior, because that's exactly what your comics did regardless. You can draw all the smut in the world you want, but why have said smut include minor characters and literal rape? The way you portrayed these things was doing so in a way that normalized it, even if you didn't intend it to be. That was the effect, and it can clearly be shown with how your fanbase reacts to said work. This gives me the same vibe as, oh, you know, I didn't mean to say it was okay to go and kill people, I just made stories that center around how cool it is to kill people, and justify those actions with my character feeling bad about it sometimes.
Of course, with this information, ZADR supers make lots of content, and of course with that comes tons of exposure. With the clear influence it had on an adult woman, there's no question its impact very much can affect people. And considering this is a kid's show, it especially affects the youth, creating and making content of a notably abusive dynamic, romanticizing it and misrepresenting it, especially since it's publicized and is treated as a normal thing by shippers, could lead to very bad consequences, and this is just one of the many. They refuse to acknowledge the abuse, manipulation, control, and of course the mental damage it leaves on victims, which can very much do damage to vulnerable and impressionable people.
These sort of ships. Look, I never believed in fiction getting into reality. I just have a thick line between fiction and reality that I never paid any mind to, and normally everybody else should, but apparently not. Just because you believe that fiction doesn't bleed into reality doesn't mean that it won't. And it does. So many of my friends who used to be fans of your work, and even fans who have come to me about this, have stated that for years they normalized the subjects of your work. And Rogue, you want to talk about how your work isn't affecting real kids? There is a person that I know that has been so greatly affected by the normalization of rape and abusive behavior that for years they were with someone who had abused them. If you don't believe that, what about the two girls who were so obsessed with Slender Man that they actually tried to murder a classmate to sacrifice to him? And the weebs that are so obsessed with the tsundere trope and anime in general that they try to act like a tsundere and use words that they don't even understand? And I'll mention here again, the Gacha Life kids who are coming onto their siblings because of the videos they watch. No matter how much you deny it, fiction does bleed into reality. You might see a very thick line between reality and fiction, but guess who doesn't? Kids! They're so very impressionable, and the content that you made was giving them all of the wrong impressions, and it shows how they continue to interact with their work.
The reason I created this video is strictly for being resourceful. Some people just don't do research on these subjects for their own personal reasons. Rather, it's about time or about spite. Depending on the individual in question, they don't want to condone or tolerate these things, which is a valid point to have. Now, of course, this is just one of the many small wins of a larger issue, which is why it's completely okay for people to be upset about this. The creator's intentions aren't being represented, and this is just one of the many cases of media illiteracy. Common sense just isn't that common anymore, unfortunately. This isn't just a bash on ZADR fans, because it's not just strictly them. It's a massive problem. Media illiteracy in general, romanticization of abuse, and people not being able to handle the truth about complex topics and things they find comforting or enjoyable. Taboo subjects are a thing that can be discussed, though we also have to understand that romanticization and misrepresentation of abuse, spreading misinformation, especially to those younger, just isn't okay. Am I saying to attack these people? No, because at the end of the day, it's just not canon.
I'm not upset with y'all because I know you're mentally ill, which is why one day I'm going to open up a hospital